stop for a moment. Picture two familiar faces, the couple you've waved to at the church bake sale, the pair who sit in the same pew every Sunday. Now imagine the phone call that turns their world upside down. Tonight we follow Kelly and Mark as a diagnosis reorders everything. Fear, small mercies, and decisions that sound like weather reports but feel like lifetimes. Will they pull through? Stay close. This is a story of ordinary courage, surprising kindness, and the stubborn ways love keeps showing up. It begins in a kitchen that looks like the rest of our lives. A chipped mug, a crossword with more clues circled and filled in, sunlight like a promise on the counter. Kelly's voice is steady at first. "They found something," she tells the person on the other end. The words hang there, ordinary and terrible. Mark hears the sentence as if from another room. He moves slower than usual, as if the floor beneath him has become gravel. In those first mortal seconds, the blueprint of their future, the plans, the vacations, the half-finished projects, becomes negotiable. Friends call, neighbors bring casseroles, but the real scene is quieter. Two hands finding one another across a table too small for the weight of what they now carry. The diagnosis is a word that tastes clinical and cruel, but the silence afterward tells the truer story: love meeting fear. The question that pulls us forward is simple. When everything changes, what holds these two together? Kelly and Mark's life was made of tiny rituals. Mark's paper at breakfast, Kelly's humming while tending geraniums, the evening ritual of sharing a chapter before lights out. Those rituals don't vanish when illness arrives, they mutate. The kettle becomes an anchor. The crossword becomes a shared, meditative task, two pens, one stubborn clue. In the middle of scans and doctor speak, they cling to these small patterns as if they were lifelines. There's an unexpected grace here. That dignity often lives in the mundane. A neatly folded napkin, the exact way Mark places sugar into his coffee, the careful labeling of medicine, these small acts become sacramental. Viewers in their 60s will recognize that life's profound moments often hide inside the routine. And when the diagnosis demands everything, these habitual gestures steady both the couple and the story. Hospital corridors have an acoustical grammar. Soft shoes, distant paging, the beep of machines like ocean surf. The first appointment is a lesson in new language, biopsy, staging, prognosis. Kelly grips Mark's hand like an anchor. His thumb finds the small scar behind her knuckle, an old mended thing that now seems apartment. The doctor's face is kind, professional, and the words feel both careful and sharp. "We'll do everything we can." That phrase becomes both comfort and frustration. The oncologist steps into the story as a crucial but partly unknowable character, an expert who is also a stranger. The appointment ends, the elevator doors close, and the couple walk back into a life that feels slightly out of sync. Out of this uncertainty comes one quiet question from a doctor: "What matters most to you?" And the answer will shift the story's direction. News like this rarely stays private. The neighborhood mobilizes, calls casseroles, rides offered to the clinic. For many in their early 60s, this communal response will feel familiar. Church ladies ring the bell. The man from 3 houses down offers to mow the lawn. A high school friend drops by with an old photograph, and a laugh that temporarily warms the kitchen. But there's a modern layer too. Social media prayers, Zoom support groups, strangers who reached out because they once walked this path. Support arrives in unexpected packages. A college roommate sends a care package from across the country. A local volunteer organizes a meal schedule. There's comfort, but also the strange loss of privacy. A life once private becomes a shared story. The scene shows that illness stretches beyond the clinic. It shifts the entire neighborhood into caretaking mode, for better and for stranger. At their kitchen table, with the kettle long cold, Kelly and Mark talk in a language only they truly know. Prognosis and probabilities are unpacked, but the most intense moments are smaller. Kelly admits she's terrified of anesthesia. Mark confesses a sharp fear of being alone. They build a plan that is part logistics and part love letter. Who calls Aunt June if a chemo day goes sideways, who brings in fresh sheets, who waters the geraniums if hands tremble. Creating this plan is an act of reclaiming agency in a season of powerlessness. For viewers, the heart of the scene is practical love, that decisions, lists, and appointments are as much expressions of devotion as flowers or grand declarations. The couple's pact to try, to choose, and to keep laughing becomes the bedrock of what follows. Cancer narratives in the media often revolve around catastrophes. The real life is a mosaic of small wins. Kelly passes a scan with a wry smile. Mark walks up the stairs without stopping for breath. They find a parking space near the clinic, and it feels like a triumph. These little victories are oxygen for the spirit. A good night's sleep, a packed lunch, a day where nausea stays away, these become celebrations. For our 60 to 65-year-old viewers, such milestones are familiar and precious, the things we cheer for in friends' recoveries. The story lingers on moments that might otherwise be overlooked, a joke remembered, a recipe reconstructed, a neighbor who brings the exact casserole that tastes like childhood. These bright pins of normalcy keep the emotional arc buoyant without denying the pain. Not every day is gentle. There is a chapter where tests reveal setbacks, bad news that lands like weather. We don't dramatize medical details. We focus on human consequences, the silence at dinner, the way Mark stares at his hands as if they contain a map he cannot read. The couple faces a choice. Allow despair to swallow them or reorganize their courage. In one of the heaviest scenes, they promise to be at their granddaughter's recital no matter what. That vow becomes a lighthouse. And just when the air feels thick and final, a surprising phone call arrives, an opening in a clinical trial, a chance that was previously unavailable. The decision to consider it is huge. Will they step through a door that feels both hopeful and frightening? We pause there. They dive into research with the deliberation of seasoned planners. Not frantic Googling, but careful consultations, trial coordinators, support groups, friends with medical backgrounds. For many viewers, this will resonate, a recognition that knowledge is power, but also a burden. They weigh risks, possible side effects, travel, time away from home. Mark surprises Kelly by insisting on being the one to pack her chemo snacks, turning a practical act into a ritual of tenderness. The scene respects the dignity of informed choice, that accepting treatment is an active, considered step rather than passive surrender. The couple's deliberations are full of painful pragmatism and lingering hope, and we leave the moment with a question. Will this trial accept them? The answer will shape the next chapter. The day of first treatment reads like a small, brave ceremony. Kelly tucks a pressed clover from their first anniversary into her pocket. Mark brings an old paperback to read aloud, if the infusion fatiguing. The antiseptic smells like a foreign shore. The infusion begins, and with it comes a parade of small physical consequences: nausea, fatigue, hair that slowly loosens its grip on the familiar. Yet there are also luminous, ordinary moments. A nurse who remembers Kelly's favorite biscuits, Mark's steady jokes, a volunteer who sings a soft hymn in the waiting room. The scene is honest about hardship and tenderness. The two often arrive hand in hand. Courage here looks ordinary, showing up, breathing slowly, holding hands until the machine ticks down. The first week after treatment brings a quiet exhaustion, but also the sense that action is better than waiting. Anger is a necessary human response to injustice and arrives like a storm. Kelly is furious at the loss of independence. Mark is raw at bureaucracy and delays. Angry scenes unfold not for melodrama, but for truth. A heated exchange with a pharmacist, a moment where frustration makes the room feel too small. Anger in this story becomes both fracture and fuel. It breaks things but also drives advocacy. They file a complaint over scheduling errors, push for clearer communication, and in doing so, They encounter a nurse named Elena who refuses to let them flounder. The scene teaches that anger needs tending. When harnessed, it can demand dignity and better care. A new ally appears, and the plot thickens. Elena, steady-handed, opinionated, and unexpectedly tender, becomes more than a caregiver. Her presence is the kind of small miracle hospitals offer. A human who remembers names, brings tea, and knows which phrases to use and which to avoid. Her backstory trickles in. She once lost a patient she loved, and that grief taught her to fight with a quieter, braver persistence. Elena arranges flexible